don't see a red dot or anything.
All right,
There we go.
chapter 4, loops and files. Little rewind. Starting out with these things called increment and decrement operators. An increment operator, new operator, plus plus. I put it beside a variable on a line by itself. It's going to replace the old line num equals num plus 1. The old line num equals num minus 1, I can replace with num minus minus. So these are two new operators, the increment, the plus plus, and the decrement operators that we can use. Coming into these, we can also look at the increment and decrement operators two ways. One is a pre and one is a post. And the example I have here, the first one, I'm going to do the post increment. Okay, so I have code that looks like this. X equals 6, Y equals 7, Y equals X plus plus, which means X gets a value of 6. Second line, Y gets a value of 7. Now you reach this third line, Y equals X plus plus. What's my new value for X? What's my new value for Y? Y equals X plus plus. Anybody want to take a guess?
Be 8 for them, both.
What would X be?
8.
I get an 8. What would Y be?
8.
8 again. Okay, so now I'm going to take a quick look at it and explain to you how it goes. When I come into this line, what happens is I go from left to right. Y gets the value of X. So it's not 8. Y is going to get the value of X first, and then because it's a post plus plus, I add 1 to X after that. So Y gets the value of X, X gets incremented by 1, and X gets the value of 7. A little tricky. That means you should be able to get the second one. This time I have X equals 6, Y equals 7, Y equals plus plus X. So the first thing I get in a hand trace, X gets a value of 6, Y gets a value of 7. Now, what value do you think Y gets and what value do you think X gets? Well, because of the way we did the order over here, what's going to happen first? Y equals plus plus X.
1's going to be added to Y.
No. First thing that's going to happen is I'm going to go plus plus X. So I'm going to increment X to 7. Now what's there gets assigned to Y, 7. You probably won't be using the Y equals X plus plus. Chances are of anything, you'll use this num plus plus on a line by itself to increment by 1. But I think it's important that you understand what the pre and the post increment and decrement operators do. Okay, so now why do we talk about that? Well, we're going to use that in this new type of thought process called looping. Went up a little too high. All right, so there are these things called flowcharts. You've seen them. They're slowly going away, but in the computer science world, we will still use them. And there's two different types of flowcharts that we're going to look at. And what we're going to do in this world of looping is used to repeat blocks of code. So if I want to do something over and over and over, I need to repeat a block of code. And for example, say I want to do something 10 times. Well, I need to be able to keep track of how many times I'm repeating this block of code. So what we need is a variable to control our loop. What would you like to call a variable that controls our loop? A loop control variable. Good. So now I have this thing called a loop control variable. It's a variable that's going to, keep track of how many times this loop executed. Well, the loop control variable contains 3 parts. It does 3 things. It's It's hard to describe what I mean until I actually tell you what it is. So the loop control variable is going to be a simple variable. It's going to need a starting value. So if I want to do something 10 times, I might give it a value of 1 to start. Okay, it's going to need some sort of check. So as long as my loop control variable is less than 11, I need to keep going. And it's going to need finally some sort of increment. So the third use, the third part, the third way the loop control variable works in a loop is it gets a starting value. As I said, maybe it'll be something like CTR for counter, gets a value of 1. Okay, I need a check. So I'm going to check as long as it's less than 11, then I'm good. And I'm going to need to increment. And here's where that CTR++ might come into play. So we're dealing with something called a loop control variable to keep track of how I go through with this loop. Now let's go back to looking at the flow chart. I have 2 of them on the screen. And the first one starts with a down arrow and it goes into a diamond. Now, before I go in, I need to get my initial value. So up here above, I'm going to say counter equals 1 before I go into the loop. Okay, so in the world of flowcharts, counter gets the value of 1. Now, I come to this diamond, and this is where I'm going to ask my question. Counter is less than 11. Now, if that is true, I'm going to take the bottom path out of the diamond, go into a rectangle, which is where the body of the loop is, where all the work is done. After I'm done with that body, I have an arrow that comes down, goes to the left, goes back up, goes to the right, and goes back into my diamond. Okay, so it's going to continue that looping process as long as counter is less than 11. Well, one of the things in the rectangle down here is going to have to be the counter ++, where it increments. So up above, counter is 1. I come into my decision diamond. If counter is less than 11 is true, I come in. I might do a couple of lines of code, but then I need to remember to increment, come out of that box, and loop all the way back up to my diamond. Now, if it's no longer less than 11, I'm going to take the false path, which is out the right, go down past all the loop work, and go to the bottom. Okay, this guy is called a pretest because I do my check before I do the body. And one of the things about the pretest is this guy will run 0 or more times. Because I could come in and all of a sudden hit this check, and you're going to see lots of different ways this loop is used. We're going to hit that pre-check, and I may never want to do the body of this loop. I may want to get out right away. And this is an example of what we're going to call a while loop. Okay, it's a pretest. It runs 0 or more times. My second flow chart, I have an arrow coming in. So again, I need to give an initial value of counter equals 1. I have an arrow that comes down. Now here's the body of my loop. Okay, so I'm going to have some stuff going on in here. Then I'm going to have some sort of increment inside of that body. I come out of that body heading down. Now I hit my diamond and I'm going to ask my question. And depending on what I want, true will take me back up to the top before the body of the loop and bring me back into the body. False will take me out the bottom. Now this guy is a post test because I'm actually checking, I'm doing my check after the body of the loop. What do you notice about this guy? He runs, well, this one went, the body got executed 0 or more times. What do we know about the body of this one?
It increments before the actual question.
Right, and the actual body. So this guy actually runs 1 or more times. So runs at least once. And you're going to see uses why this type of loop works well better than the pretest, because we do want it to run at least once. And in a little bit, you'll see This guy is called the do while. Now, for those of you that did the code listing, you've already seen little bit examples of what a while loop looks like and what a do while loop looks like. Okay? I just talked a long time. Do we have any questions? All right. Hearing none. Conceptually, we have these blocks of codes that repeat. We have to find a way to keep track, to track how many times it runs. And we have a couple of different situations. Okay. Again, the while loop, that's the first one. It runs 0 or more times. This guy was the pre-test. And you've seen in the code listings examples of a while loop. Okay, the while loop, I start with while, I come with a Boolean expression, which is going to be my check, and then I have the body. So the first thing that we're going to take a look at is I'd like to display hi mom 10 times. I'd like to display hi mom 10 times. So I'm going to start out with a loop control variable. I'm going to say counter equals 1. I now come into my while, and I'm going to simply do while counter is less than 11, because I want it to run for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now I have the body of my while. I start with a left brace. I'm going to do more coding, so we can do system.out.println, the string literal, hi mom. The last part, counter plus plus, is going to increment my counter, and I'm done. Counter equals 1, while counter is less than 11, inside of the body of my loop, I do counter plus plus and system.out.print hi mom. Okay, so I want you to, I'm going to pause the video. I want you by yourself to go and type that up and get it to run. Okay, we'll take about 5 minutes to do that. All right, so I'm going to put up my screen. And as you can see, I have the public class, I call it hi mom, public static void main, all the good stuff is there. I have 9 int CTR. CTR I have is short for counter. It's just something that I started 30 years ago, and I've just always used CTR. On line 11, int CTR equals 1. While counter is less than 11, I have my body with my left and right brace, system.out.println hi mom, and finally CTR plus plus. Now, if I look down in the console, I have my console window, and I see that it's hi mom there, and I think it's 10 times. I'm not positive. So I can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I can't count them. It gets kind of messy. So what I'm now going to do is I'm going to go back into my system.out.println, and I'm going to take advantage of my loop control variable. And what I'm going to do is display. So I'm going to display that counter each time. System.out.println, CTR plus, and now hi mom. So when I run it, I should get numbers 1 through 10 appearing before hi mom. And I do, which is nice, because I know that for a fact, Jack, there is 10 hi moms printing out. So I don't want to ever change or mess around with counter, except for when I increment it inside the body, but I can also use it for different things. And here's an example, system.out.println, counter plus hi mom. Okay. Now, one of the questions, let me go there first. Any questions? Okay, so this is an example of a while loop. The next thing I want to take a look at, and again, I have line 12, while counter is less than 11. I do all that. So I do my test in the beginning. I have a pre-test. That was my while loop. I'm going to do the same thing this time, but I'm going to use a do loop. So what do I want to do? I want to start CTR out at 1. I say do and while. Now here's where my check is at the very end with my while. So now I want to say while counter is less than 11. Inside the body, I'm going to do system.out.println. Heck, I could have just copied and pasted from above, but I didn't. CTR plus hi mom. Let's do hi dad this time. And I'm going to also have to remember to do my increment. CTR plus plus. Is it going to work? Once again, this is the post check. I have the while comes after. And when I run it down in the console window, I get an error. Somebody know what my error is? Anybody know what my error is?
You don't have brackets.
Very good. I need to have braces for the body. So I'm going to have a brace. I'm going to go do my system.out.println, and then I'm going to have my CTR. So as much as the do starts it and the while ends it, we still have to enclose this in braces. And if I compile it, I get hi mom 10 times. I get hi dad 10 times. Okay. Questions? Now, line 24 is inside of my do while loop. It's counter plus plus. Is it smart to put that after line 23? Would it have made a difference? Well, the answer is yes, because I would have been incrementing counter. So my very first hi dad would have come out as 2, and it wouldn't have worked so well. So sometimes location of where you put that is in fact going to matter. All right, so now I want you to write a program. Hopefully it's not going to take too long. I only want you to do it right now with the while loop. What I want you to do, each individual, is I want you to write a program that will display all the numbers between 1 and 100 that are divisible by 3. So I want you to display all the numbers between 1 and 100 that are divisible by 3. I'm going to pause the recording. And let's see, I have counter equals 1, while counter is less than 101. Could I have made that counter less than 100? Because 100 I already know is not divisible. But how many times does this loop run? How many times does the body of this loop run?
$101 times.
Well, yeah, 101 times. Actually, it's just 100 because then the counter will get it. It already starts at 1.
Oh, okay. It's 1.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So what do I have? I have counter equals 1, while counter is less than 101. I say if counter mod 3 equals 0, again, that means it divides evenly into 3, then I want to print out what that counter was. And then in my console window, I have displayed 3 comma space 6 comma space 9 comma. I did it all in one line instead of going vertical. I went horizontal. That's why I did system.out.print counter plus double quotes comma, space, double quotes. Then I have my increment. Okay. My line 20 is system.out.println with nothing in the parentheses. What do you think that causes?
This then starts a new line, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's just going to do a carriage return. So this loop runs 100 times. How many numbers actually get displayed? So if you think of the numbers 3, 6, 9, 12, blah, 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 if you counted all those up, how many numbers are actually getting displayed?
Isn't it 33 of them?
Yeah, there's 33 of them. So, oh, wait, he's got more code hidden. Here's a new loop that I have. I'm outside the box a little bit. Instead of running 100 times, I'm looking to be a little more efficient and just run 33 times. I say counter equals 1. While counter is less than 34, left brace, system.out.print, counter times 3. So the first time counter is 1, but I multiply it by 3 to get 3. Counter becomes 2, I multiply it by 3, it gives me 6. Counter becomes 3, I multiply it by 3 to get 9. How many times does this loop run? Just 33 times. Just 33 times. Is it more efficient? Yeah, it runs less times. Also, I don't have an if statement to check. Okay. Up above, I was checking the if statement and doing a little bit extra work. So here's a loop. I go with my loop from 1 to 33. And each time through, I take my counter, my loop control variable, and multiply it by 3. Just blew your minds, right? Just blew your minds. Whoa, is there another one? Yes. This time I say counter equals 3. This is another example. While counter is less than 100, system.out.print counter. Notice my increment's a little different this time. Counter equals counter plus 3. So I go through my loop. Counter is 3, then I add 3 to get 6, then I add 3 to get 9, then I add 3 to get 12. So a bunch of different ways to do this same kind of thing. I know some of you are calling me clever right now. All right, so we now have a situation, okay? Here's what's going to happen. I have this last loop, counter equals 3, while counter is less than 100, system.out.print counter plus plus, and oh no, I accidentally forgot my increment. What do I know about counter? Somebody? What's the value of counter in line 40 when this starts? Gets the value of 3, right? Line 41, what's the value of counter?
Less than 100.
Yeah, it's still 3. Line 43, when I print it out, it's 3. Then I go back up to my while. What is it? It's still 3. And it stays 3 and stays 3 and stays 3. And if I go and run this, you're going to see that hopefully the first 2 still work. And now all of a sudden my last output is 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3. And guess what? It never ends. Hence the term infinite loop. Okay, I'm stuck in an infinite loop because I never incremented it. 3 is always less than 100, and it's just going to keep running and running and running and running. So this guy right here, as I said a minute ago, infinite loop. I need the 3 parts. Okay.